I'll hold 500 since
Is this an instruction on how to tie a belt?
Bloopers. Alright, ready? Yeah. Alright, hey guys, Conceptual BJJ here. Got my buddy Mo Jr. here, one of my best friends. So today we're going to be going over short arm Darce. Mo was asking about the details, and I'm going to get him caught up on all the details from short arm Darce. We're going to do this one from half guard. I learned this detail from my good buddy Bo, so shout out to Bo on this. So when the guy underhooks here, I'm gonna grab a near side underhook, and I'm gonna pick him up and drop my shoulder and base out with this hand and make him flat on the mat. Then I'm gonna take my right arm as an overhook. I'm gonna put my fist on the floor and make sure my arm is over his elbow and his wrist is at my hip or my ribs to where I'm arm locking him. So I'm driving my arm against his elbow this way and my hip this way to create an arm lock so that he wants to take his arm out. So when he's here, I'll sometimes frame at the neck here, and I'm gonna straighten my arm, move my body to the left, and crank the arm to where he wants to take that out, otherwise it's gonna arm lock him. So once this arm's out, I'm gonna drag his elbow across and put my chest on top of it. So when my chest is on top of it, I'm gonna take my right ear to his shoulder, turn, so that it makes this arm long. And I just want to reach the back of his neck. Now this isn't going to be enough when he's trying to defend to bring him in, because Junior's going to be smart and he's going to raise his head so that I can't crunch it in. So what I'm going to do is reach over with this hand like a guillotine grip. I'm going to try to grab my own elbows. So I'm going to reach over and try to either grab his chin or my own elbows. Just basically take a big hug and take his ear to his shoulder. Because he's strong here, if he tries to lift his head this way. So if he's here and he tries to lift his head up, it's really hard. He's really strong here to lift in this direction. But if I take his ear to his shoulder, it's now just one part of his muscle and it's much weaker here. So what I'm gonna try to do is wrap and make his neck weaker where I pull his ear to his shoulder. And now it makes it really easy to grab my wrist for a short arm Darce. Anytime I can get my elbow, I can definitely get my wrist. So sometimes on bigger guys, it's really hard to lock a deep grip and to finish the choke. Sometimes your fingers slip as you start to choke. So I'm gonna wrap this arm over, grab the top of my wrist or my forearm, make sure my elbow's over the back of his head here, and then I'm gonna make sure my chest is over his shoulder, not on the tricep. If you go on the tricep or down here, it's more of a crank. If it's on your chest on the shoulder, it's gonna be more of a choke because we're using our forearm and this side of the carotid to cut this artery. And this one's cutting this side of the artery, so we can try to compress those two together. So here, when I can grab my wrist, I make sure my elbow's over the top of his head. I'm gonna kind of bring him in so that my chest is more over his shoulder. An important step is I walk this hand up and I try to drive my elbow in before I sit. So I'm gonna sit to my hip, but the problem is if I drop my elbow to the floor first, my weight's on it and it's hard to drive his head to his hips, because that's what's gonna create the choking pressure, is driving his head into the choke, right? So when I'm here and I have this elbow on top of his head, I'm gonna drive, putting my weight on the back of his head with my elbow and driving my weight here like this. Now because my elbow's in, I can drop to my hip. I'm gonna pull up with my right elbow here. So I'm doing this motion, dropping, putting my weight, sitting in my hip, and I'm pulling my right elbow back like a row. It makes a really tight choke. All right. Thank you guys. Appreciate it. Like, subscribe, and comment. We'll see you in the next video.